Hi everyone, this is Terry, and today's Studio Sunday. I'm shooting it before we go to C2E2 tomorrow. I'll spend the weekend in Chicago at the show, and I wanted to make this video early so it'll post while we're at the show on Sunday. And instead of drawing today, I wanted to answer some questions from an art teacher in the Hudson Valley at Sevenfold Studio. So Alex has a group of art students who had real questions about making a living at this crazy business of comics. And I don't see enough people actually talking the truth about income on comics. And if you're an artist looking at this industry, wondering if you can make a living, that's a valid question, because who's talking about it? People don't talk about money. So I'll do my best to explain what I can. Maybe it'll help somebody. Alex said that the number one question is how I got started and why I aimed at indie work instead of corporate, just to kind of get things going. I got started with a mini series. I had been drawing at home on the kitchen table, had a lot of wild ideas. Nothing was going anywhere. I mostly was trying to do comic strips. No success. But I did end up with some original characters that I liked. Basically, my three main characters, Kachu, Francine, and David, for Strangers in Paradise. So I decided to try a comic book. I drew a first issue. It managed to be picked up by a small independent publisher in Texas, Antarctic Press. They did a miniseries and a trade paperback. And that all three of those books, plus the trade, I made $1,800. That was for 5 months' work. $1,800 for 5 months. And I thought, God, I could have made more money mowing yards. So I knew that wasn't going to work. Drawing comics and giving them to other publishers so that they could pay me 18%, which is the standard rate, author rate in the publishing industry, 18% of whatever they do. That just seemed wrong, because it was my idea. I wrote it, I drew it, I spent months on it. They spent days on it, editing it and sending it out to a printer. And then the printer spent a day on it. Those people had days invested. I had months invested. They got the bulk of it, like 78%, and I got my cut, 18%. So, but that's how publishing works, because they invest in the book, the printing, the marketing, all that. And they have the contacts, they have the network. All you have is your pencil. So yeah, they win. It's their ball. That's why I went to indie comics. At the time when I started, there was a big indie movement. Self-publishing was very high profile. There was the new Bone comic was coming out. Neil Gaiman was part of that group I don't know why. I mean, because the first time I ever heard of him was Sandman, but he hung out with the self-publishing movement because he had done some of his own stuff. But yeah, it was that and Cerebus and a lot of other books from the 90s. So anyway, I hitched a ride on that, and Jeff Smith told me how to do it. And here's what he told me, and I've been doing it ever since. You have all these stores all over America. There's a distributor, and right now we only have one. Back then we had a bunch, but we have one. So let's just talk about the one. Diamond Comic Distributors in Baltimore is the distributor company that will take your comic, put it in their catalog, order catalog that they put out every month. That catalog goes out to every single store in America. The retailer looks through the catalog and fills out an order form. Okay, I'm gonna get my usual order of Batman, Spider-Man, Superman. Oh, and in the indie section, here's your book. So we're gonna try this new book. I'm gonna get 10 copies. So all the stores in America order 10 copies of your book. And say there's 600 stores in America right now. I don't know how many there are. So it's 600 times 10. And that's the order that Diamond will give you. I'm so bad at math. I shouldn't have said numbers. But say, for instance, the order comes to, 1,500 copies of your book have been ordered by Diamond Comics. And I use two printers, one in Canada for the big books, and then I use a printer here in America for the individual issues. The guy who's done all of my printing on individual floppy issues is Brenner Printing in San Antonio, Texas. Very affordable, very reliable. I've used them since day one. Still there. And I think the standard was that it cost about 30 to 40 cents per book to print a comic. And then you sell it to wholesale to Diamond. Diamond ordered 1,500 copies. They're getting those at wholesale, which means they want 60% off. So your $3 book, or what is this, $3.99, they're getting it for like $1.10 or something like that, whatever it is. It cost you 40 cents to make it. You sold it for $1.10 to Diamond. And you do that because Diamond gave you this big order that's going to, they talk to every single store in America. So yeah, you play that game. I know it's a big cut, but it got you your book into every store. And wait, there's more. Don't get discouraged, there's more. So that's how you got the book into the stores. And the Diamond order was enough to pay for all of your printing bill. So you have not gone to the bank or borrowed any money. The book paid for itself. That's your goal, to get that book to pay for itself. If you get no orders, you cancel. You don't owe Diamond money, you don't owe the retailers money, you don't owe the printer money. Cancel the order if nobody orders it. Or if you only get 20 orders, cancel. Don't do it. It didn't work out. Try a different book, a different idea, put it in the catalog again. This time, make a really pretty ad with a great drawing, and the retailers see it and they'll go, "Oh, I like the art. I'll try this." Whatever. That's why my first issue of Motor Girl has a gorilla and a pretty girl in a tank top on the cover, because I needed all the help I can get. A friend of mine said, "Terry, if you draw a comic with a gorilla, a pretty girl, and a motorcycle on it, every guy in America will order it." So I did. But then inside, I made a heartfelt story. But the cover is bait. Please order this book. Check it out. Check it out. Isn't this interesting? Don't you want this in your store? Yeah, the cover is is the front door. Like, come check it out. The cover gets them to the book. The story makes them stay. That's the rule. So that's the situation with getting your book into a store. All you did was draw it, send it off to Diamond. Diamond sends it out in a catalog. Retailers order it. Diamond gives you the retail order. You turn the book into the printer, and Diamond's order paid for the printing bill. You didn't borrow any money. And maybe the Diamond's order was 10,000, and you made a lot of money over the printing cost. So you're really happy. You love Diamond. This book is a success. Or maybe your orders only paid for the book, and that's it. And you're lucky you got it paid for. You overprint by 200 or 300 copies, and then you take these extra prints, the extra free copies, because Diamond paid for the whole print run. You take these 200 and you take them out to comic book shows for the rest of the year, and you go to any show you can go to and set up an artist alley, which is usually very affordable. Or sometimes if you've been making a comic for a year or two, they might even give you a half table or give you a table because they want you there because you're popular. So again, you went to the show. There's no cost except to get yourself to the show. You sell your copies for retail, $3.99 each, and you'll make as much money off those 300 copies as you did off of your retail order sometimes. But that's where you make your extra money, is at the show selling your books that were paid for by the retail order. Also at the show, you have your art, your original art from the book that you can sell, pricing according to how pretty your art is. And you have your sketches, your prints. People may love your art style. They haven't read your book, but they'll say, I would love to see you draw Alice in Wonderland. Would you do that? Or would you draw, you know, something, my favorite anime character? So you're at the show and you think, you could bribe me. I could be bribed. I'm easily bribed. And they'll pay you $20 or $2,000 to, you know, just draw a little happy face for me, would you, in your style? So that's what the shows are about. It's part of your income. Between those two, that's your living. That's how you make a living. And whether or not you can support yourself and have a place in the valley and just do comics for a living depends on how popular your art style is. Or if you're a writer artist and you're making a book like me where you write it and draw it, depends on your story. The cover got them to look at it and check it out, but the story needs to be something they can't stop. They can't put it down. They want to know what the next thing is. That depends on your talent as a storyteller. So talent enters the equation. On the other hand, you can be incredibly gifted and overlooked. One mistake that young people might make is they're hoping for a father figure, or not a father figure, a parental figure, a mythical parental figure who will recognize their talent and nurture them along. You know, it's the Star is Born story. It's a myth. There are no parental figures out there who will see your potential and you're grossly overlooked, and then they will be your Svengali and guide you along to the top. It's not like that. Really, what I have found in comics is that every creator is an island, and it's up to, it's like we're islands that you can't, I can see the other islands, but I don't communicate with them every day or every month. And they're on their own to survive. There's one person on that island doing that book. There's me doing my book. And it's up to us to figure out how to spend our days and our year getting our book to be seen. So this is where the internet comes into play. You can get your URL, have your own webpage. You know, that's the one thing you might invest in. If you'll notice, you haven't spent any of your own money yet because Diamond paid for your printing bill and the method that I'm telling you about. And you may have had to pay for your table at Artist Alley, but that'll only be for the first year or two until your book gets some sort of fame to it or popular. That's the plan. Don't plan to fail, plan for this to work. And at that point, Artist Alley tables will be given to you if you will show up, because they want you there to draw the crowd. So yeah, that's kind of where the income comes from, is the printing book into the retail stores, and then the Comic-Con, the shows, selling your material at the table. And then the other thing is to have your website and have a store thing on there. And that's just, you know, normal computer app stuff. And I'm sure all of you guys know way more how to do that than I do. But even I'm so low tech, and even I have a web store. And we fill orders all the time on it. So that's part of the income as well. And then there's the social media. And do not ever underestimate it. The thing is, like, for instance, if you're on Instagram, now it's all about pretty pictures. And if you have pretty pictures and people start to like it and you get a big following, then you say you got a following of, well, I'm at the bottom of the food chain. My following is modest on Instagram, but there are people that have 100,000, 300,000 followers. And if you tell those 300,000 followers, you've been baiting them all year with your pretty picture. Look at my art, look at my art, look at my art. And then at the end of the year, you have this many followers, and you say, I'm putting out an art book. and you can order it only on my website. And you come out with, a beautiful art book. Now you have 100,000 people that know you have an art book, and a big percentage of them are going to want that book. You know, so that's part of your income as well. Um, and you haven't spent any money, right? You just said, I'm going to collect all the art that I drew this year and I'm going to put it in a book. Come meet me over at Kickstarter, order your copy, and we'll get this book printed for you. Well, you still haven't spent any money. They go to Kickstarter and let the orders add up, and it pays for the book, and it pays, hopefully more than that, and you make a nice living while you put the book together. So all these different avenues are what you combine to get your income. At the end of the month, you got a diamond check, you got a web page check, you've got your art book collection happening, and maybe it's just come out, so you got your Kickstarter check, or you have your convention visits, where say you go to the convention in Kansas City and you made $2,500 that weekend, all in $20 bills that you shoved into your jeans. So that's where the income is. And how much you make depends on you. Be kind and grateful to people that give you any attention for your art. Realize don't be so shy that you can't function. We all tend to be a little bit shy in the creative industry because the way you got so good at your art to begin with was because you spent a lot of time alone focused on that art, and you get used to being alone. And so going to the shopping mall or going to an airport is just an assault on your nerves. Don't look at a comic convention the same way. A comic convention is one of the happiest places on earth because everybody's there because they want to be. And you go to your table, you sit in your little spot, and people come to you because they're attracted to the work. It's not about you, it's about the work. And that gives you the courage to talk about the work. I would never go up to a stranger, introduce myself, and tell them my story. But I will talk to a stranger about Motor Girl or any of these other books that I've done, I have the courage for that because the work is important. I spent a lot of time making it. I will do what I can to get it to survive. They're like kids, you find the courage to do the right thing by your kids or your books or whatever. I don't mean to say they're the same as equate, but I hope you get my point. Do I need to spend a big chunk of what I earn on marketing? No. Did you notice that nowhere in there did I say marketing? All of it is direct to customer. Marketing is when you go to try to see if there's any customers way over there. And this isn't really like that. You kind of like set up your web page, people come to you, and you go find them through social media. People find you through social media, and what pulled them in was your visuals, your art, and that gathered them to you. You're like a light and moth to flame, whether it's social media or your webpage or the Comic-Cons where people walk by your booth and go, whoa, that's gorgeous art. Let's stop here at this booth. I got to see this. And now they know you. That's how it works. Nowhere in there did I get a PR person or marketing. I've never done that. The book has to pay for itself, and it has. I've never gone to get a bank loan. So I never owed anybody any money. The retail orders always paid for every printing. And then when I wanted to print something that didn't go to retail first, it was a Kickstarter, and we just did our first Kickstarter, and it was a success. It paid for the book and more. And so now that book exists. Once it's out to all the Kickstarter people, then I will solicit it through Diamond and let the retail stores do their version. That's how it works. See, I did. What do I need a marketing person for? Third question, do I need to have a second source of income to make ends meet? I did. For the first 18 months of my comics career, I kept my day job. And because I was already with a young family and I could not play around, I was not looking for a new hobby when I entered comics. I was looking for a career. So I needed comics to make as much or more as my day job. And the way I did that was I did both. So I worked all day and then I worked at night on the comics. It was not easy, but I was very motivated, so it worked. I remember the day that I knew I could quit my day job I was a TV editor, and the rate to hire a person to sit at an Avid random access editing system and edit your documentary or whatever, it cost $300 an hour back then. And so I was with a customer, $300 an hour, which means, I'm not playing around. They're watching you because they're paying a lot of money for you to sit in that chair. Do not move. Stay on my project. But I had a crisis with Diamond Comic Distributor for my other business that I had going on. Diamond had a question that I had to answer. And if I don't answer it right now, within the next 20 minutes, then that book is going to have to wait another month before it can go out. And it was like, I remember it being like $9,300 was the order for that issue of Strangers in Paradise. But I'm sitting in an edit session, $300 an hour with a client. And I thought, I have to get that Diamond phone call. For the first time in my whole editing career, I said, I'm sorry, I need to leave the room for a minute. I'll be right back. And all these really busy ad people are like, okay, all right. Maybe I held my stomach as I left or something like that, just like, but I went out to the hall and I called Diamond and I resolved the issue. And I realized at that moment, my comics had a $9,300 problem and my editing was a $300 problem. Comics won. And that's when I put in my notice and stopped editing, and I never looked back. So yeah, do both until the comics can carry you. I hope that this has helped. This has been 22 minutes of me chatting about a side of the business that is not very glamorous. But if you are considering getting into comics, I hope that I've been able to show that it is way possible. Yes, it is possible. No, you do not have to draw like so-and-so or so-and-so because we already have them. Bernie Wrightson was great, but we already have Bernie. We don't need you to be another Bernie. We need you to be you. We already have a Strangers in Paradise and we already have a Motor Girl. We don't need a copy, a clone of that. We need whatever it is you're doing that none of us have thought of. So maybe you have a new way of drawing a living room and a new way of drawing a person standing on a hillside with a cape on. Maybe you can show us things that... the thing I loved about comics, and I still love it, what makes me get up every day and try it again, is that I don't have to talk 100 people into it. If I decide today that I want to draw a building taking off and flying to the moon, I can draw that. I don't have to talk anybody into it. I can sit at the drawing table and make it happen. And at night, tonight when I go to bed, I will have that image on my table and I am so happy that I have it. And that kind of stuff is what I put out into the market. And then other people get to see that for the first time. They don't want to see necessarily the 10 millionth drawing of Harley Quinn and Poison Ivy, although I just drew one. But nobody is asking for it, I mean, what they want to see is show me something I've never seen before. And I remember there was one scene in Strangers in Paradise, I'll leave you with this. in that whole shelf right there is all Strangers in Paradise. And I remember every scene in that whole big long run that is original. And one of the original scenes there that are in there, and by original I mean I've never seen it on the screen or in another book. There's one scene in there where Kachu, who was abused as a young person by a stepfather, that stepfather finally dies, and she visits, as a grown woman, she visits his grave and spray paints on his gravestone. And then she pulls out a can of lighter fluid and squirts it all over the grave and sets it on fire. And then she stands there and watches his grave burn. And that's how she closes out that subject in her life. I've never seen that on screen before. I haven't seen that in a TV show. I've never seen it in a movie. I've never read it in a book. I think, in my mind, that's my scene. That's my idea, my scene, and I didn't rip it off from anyone. I can't tell you how important that is to me, that I managed to get something like that to exist. You know, that's creating for me. It's not, drawing my version of something popular. It's a whole new thing that I did with my hands, and I did it with, all it took was my pencil, my one pencil that I've drawn all my comics with. I'm so proud of it, It just means a lot that exists and that I got to do that. And I'm grateful for the opportunity to be able to do that kind of thing. And then to be able to put it in a book and put it out to the world, and other people have seen it. And then they write me letters going, I am Kachu, and this resonates with me. It doesn't get any better than that, guys. That's what art is for, is to reach out to the world and people ping back. It's like a message, and everything you draw is like a message in a bottle when it comes back to you like that. And saying, we saw it. You sent it out from your island, and we saw it, and we loved it. And it resonates with us. We feel it. Thank you. That's worth all the hard work. That was worth everything I went through to get to the point where I could draw that page and send it out. So anyway, that's why I do indie comics instead of Batman. And all these books over on this side, those are my work for other publishers. And I've never gotten a single letter or a comment back on anything I've ever done for the mainstream people. I did get a modest check. It's $150 a page to ink a page. It's $240 to pencil it. It's even less to write it. That's it. I mean, you'll make these small, steady checks, but you're playing in a cover band and you have no future, and you're living check to check in a cover band. Or make your own stuff and do all that stuff I told you. It's hard work, but it's not an 8 hours a day job. It's your life. Taylor Swift isn't Taylor Swift just 8 hours a day. She's Taylor Swift 24/7. And the same thing with Neil Gaiman. Neil Gaiman is Neil 24/7. It's not a job. It's a lifestyle. It's a life. So if you want just a job, those guys are always looking for new talent. If you want to leave a catalog of books that are all your own work, indie comics is the way to go. Hope that helped.